Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 with my continuing look at Third Reich Events with Black Ice for Hearts of Iron 3. And we're here for Anschluss, or Union, I guess is what it would mean in English, with Austria. That is what is coming up now. And so we're going to click this. Anschluss or not. Demands for the Union Anschluss of Austria and Germany increased after Adolf Hitler became Chancellor. Jumping back in time a little bit, Austria declared basically that it was part of Germany, I think around 1920. But the Allies go, no, 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 you don't. So they pulled that back. It was sort of, or it was even, or I don't know exactly, and I have to look it up, and I know it's probably bad to do this, but it's like they called themselves like Austrian Germany or something like that, or Austrian Deutschland or whatever, and in that it was going to maybe not quite declare as part of Germany, but total Anschluss back then, but it was definitely trying to move towards that, and the Allies put a very firm stop to it. So, because they did not want to see Germany get stronger, I think is at its core. After World War I, in February 1938, Hitler invited Kurt Schuschnigg, the Austrian Chancellor, to meet with him in Berchtesgaden. Hitler demanded concessions when the Austrians refused, and on March, the Austrian Chancellor announced a plebiscite referendum on independence of Austria. Adolf Hitler took the opportunity to take action against the Austrian state. Schuschnigg was pressed to resign. The National Socialists, Arthur Seyss-Inquart, took over the chancellorship and formed a new government. The Austrian National Socialists took power in Austria on the morning of March 12, 1938. Troops of the German Wehrmacht and the SS crossed the German-Austrian border. On March 13th, Hitler in Linz announced the passage of Anschluss of Austria into the German Reich. Okay, that covers sort of the basic what's going on. It's Hitler, says, "Come here, Schuschnigg. We're gonna, just use a, Bush to Berchtesgaden right here, just across the border. We're gonna unify the countries." And Schuschnigg is going, no, and refuses, and then goes back and, well, we're going to hold a plebiscite. Well, now, and I want to thank Fritz for helping me out, but I'm still not sure, because he definitely, I asked in my Discord forum for one of the German speakers here to describe what the Winterland Front, or the Fatherland Front in English, said about itself and fascism. Was it a fascist party? Because I definitely heard it called that, and I've been calling it a fascist party. And he sort of describes how they describe themselves. That they were sort of a corporatist state. They were a corporatist state. They had outlawed other parties. So there was a national party. He did state that they used the Führerprinzip. And I'm very thankful for what Fritz said. But what I'm still wondering about is, and this is not what a modern, I would really like to know, not what a modern person says about the Fatherland Front, but what did the Fatherland Front back then publish in German regarding fascism? Did they ever use the term fascist to describe themselves in some way? And one thing that's very clear with the Fatherland Front, you see they use a cross as its sort of party symbol. Unlike the fascists in Italy, which come to an agreement with the Vatican and hence the Catholic Church, there is definitely a contention between fascism and Catholicism, but fascism is very Catholic in many ways, and I'm thinking of other countries as well. Many fascist parties are Catholic, so that is a sort of a major thing. Not all, but most. Where in Austria, they're definitely a Catholicism, and I would still tentatively describe the Fatherland Front as a fascist party, and I don't know how much. Well, they definitely in Fritz says they see themselves as social, and I think he means somewhat socialist, as opposed to just, hey, yeah, we all like to hang out and party together, being social, like social media, but socialist. So that they were a type of socialism, which fascism. Not all socialism is the same. Not all socialism, and I've been sort of trying to think about as early, medieval feudalism. Is it socialism? And tentatively come to the conclusion, no. But there is an element of socialism. Socialism, Marxist socialism, is leveling socialism, meaning they want everyone to have the same quality of housing, the same quality. If one person has a car, everybody has a car, and if one person can't have a car, nobody can have a car. It was the old thing that the teachers used to do in school. If somebody got caught with like gum or candy or something, it was always like, well, do you have enough for the whole class? Well, then no, you don't get to have it. Sometimes some student would decide to bring in it next day or something, like, stick enough sticks of gum so they give everyone a stick of gum in class. The idea of, well, you can't have it if somebody else doesn't have it, you can't have it, kind of thing. Socialism. So in my opinion, Marxist socialism is particularly evil, in that they want to hold everybody back. No one can be better. Where fascist socialism doesn't have that impetus, meaning you can have rich people. Now, doesn't that make it capitalist? No, because socialism at its core is a redistributive ideology, and that the government, the government either owns or controls, but control is sort of an ownership, but ultimately owns the means of production. So the government owns the means of production, and that they might allow what you call sort of ownership, of a factory by an individual or another group, corporation. Yes, but if they don't behave well with it, the government can take it over. And I mean by that is, and not even like an emergency wartime situation. It's sort of like, oh, hey, here's a good thing is, and we can see this in modern American socialism, is like, hey, yes, your cars made in your automobile company must meet a certain requirement for fuel efficiency. Now, they have these in America, and they target, so your cars must be, on an average, this level of fuel, get 10 miles to the gallon. They must. Or let's say 20 miles to the gallon. And so what the U.S. automobile industry has done, because of these government mandates, these government controls, is, okay, we're going to make some econo cars that get 30 miles to the gallon so that we can also make some trucks if they get 10 miles to the gallon, and we're going to, so that we can sell these popular trucks because they're vroom vroom, as opposed to just like, hey, yeah, we make cars, they get 1 mile to the gallon. And you're not allowed to do that commercially in America. You're literally not allowed to do that. America ain't as free as people might think. So, there's a lot of government control. Why should the government be able to tell an automobile manufacturer what its mileage requirements to the gallon? I know a lot of Europeans watch this channel, and you go, well, of course they should be able to do it because we need better. What the hell does it matter? If you want to build, whether it's a race car or just some super heavy tank of a car that hardly gets any good gas mileage, it's up to the people whether they want to buy a car that doesn't get good gas mileage or not. Whether you're rich and you want this luxurious, super big Cadillac that's heavy and gets poor gas mileage, or you're not rich, but you're willing to, pay the penalty of the expensive gas. Why should the government have any sort of say? Now, I'm not an absolutist on this because I say, okay, well, like pollution standards, catalytic converters are on cars that reduce pollution levels in America, so they don't spew out a lot of pollution. Well, see, pollution is something that affects, it goes out the back of the car and will affect the environment around it. Whether I, buy a gallon of gas and use it in a car, or buy a gallon of gas and just burn it up. It's my gas. I can do what I want with it, so long as I'm not polluting the environment. I get to, I should be able to use that gallon of gas however the hell I feel like it. But I can't go pour it into the public sewers untreated and destroy things, or go pour it on a public park and poison the plants or something. No, that's a communal property. But if I wanted to poison my own plants because I wanted to kill off the plants, why can't I use gasoline to do that or something? You get my point. Is that yes, government should have some say in some things. I'm not an absolutist, but I also don't believe that the government should be making mileage requirements, which they also sort of, lie about. The companies do. Mileage requirements for automobile manufacturers. And hell, yeah, I may very much want to pay attention to how many miles to the gallon a car gets, because hell, you don't want, you want to be able to afford to drive. I mean, it's an important thing. It should be a sales point with the car. Absolutely. And it's up to the individual to decide what they want to buy. Or now the government might put out a requirement and say, well, government-owned automobiles, because whether it's a police car or just, there's all kinds of government cars. Your job may be a farm inspector or something or whatever, and you need to drive a government car around all day. Not your own car, because you drive to work in your own car, you get in the government car and put miles on it because it's your job. And then the government may go, well, you need this miles per gallon for the government car. No, yeah, okay, for what the government's spending money on, I'm all good with. But so the socialist believes that the means of production is owned collectively by the people, even though there might be a individual tag, but it's still sort of collectively owned, and that collectively owned is administered through the government. And with socialism, they also believe in redistribution of wealth or goods and services and resources to people, that from those that have more than others to those that have less. And this redistribution should go through the government, not through a private or through a charity that's voluntary, but meaning that money or other could be a taking of food or something, can be taken away from person or persons, could be business, and given to somebody else to make their lives better, as an individual, as opposed to, oh, well, we're going to take away some of your money and then use that money to pay for a bridge over a river, missing the Danube here, and then that will help everybody. Yes, we do have, that is somewhat redistributive, as opposed to, hey, we're a company, we're going to, you might think this weird, but we're going to build a bridge, but only we can cross it. You can't cross it. Well, that might be a railway bridge in the 19th century. And only my railway company can cross this bridge. And the government's going, should other trains be allowed to cross the bridge? I think yes, but they have to pay a fee to the builder of the bridge, the owner of the bridge. But the socialists, and now the governments can decide if they also want to do some of this stuff too. So, again, I am not an absolutist. So, I'm to a degreeist, might be a good term, as opposed to I'm thinking, am I a hypocrite? Well, we're all hypocrites to some degree, but no, I'm not being hypocritical here. I'm just being, to a degree, yes, for the collective good of society, the government gets to tax you to, maintain an army to protect society. Might decide to collectively decide through legislation to, build highways, and, have the government pay for the building of the highway and building roads and whatnot, and then, yes, other people will get to benefit from it. But that is different from taking from somebody who has a lot of stuff and using it to give, forcibly taking it with a gun, walking up to you and saying, "Oh, give us half of your paycheck, and we're going to give that to half your paycheck to somebody else," as opposed to you seeing somebody in need and going, "Hey, I want to help that person in need. Here's half my paycheck. I don't need it all." There is a difference. This is where a lot of socialists don't understand the difference with Christians. Christians believe that they should give, generally it's 10% as a tithe, but maybe a bit more, believe that they should voluntarily help the poor and the needy, but they don't believe, you find somebody believes something, Christians, but generally in Christian philosophy, it isn't the government taking from you to give to the poor. It is you voluntarily giving to the poor. There's a distinction there that I would make. There's a significant distinction. And no, they both may want to help the poor, but one wants to force others to do so. The other wants to encourage others to do so, as well as maybe doing it themselves. So the Fatherland Front and Italian fascism and the Fatherland Front are definitely Italian fascism. Let me stick with this. Italian fascism definitely believes in the collective ownership of the means of production, but they believe it on a national scale, not an international scale. So they are national socialists, if you will, but fascists, and as opposed to international socialists or communists, or because they're both international socialists and communists. Distinctions there, yes. So the fascists are socialists, that they believe in the collective ownership of the means of production and redistributing it. But they do see and allow for some to get more than others, and naturally to do so, and not to be, hypocritical. It's not that the government guy gets to ride around in a limousine, or I forget the name of the big cars that the Soviet bureaucrats, not just the leader of the Soviet Union, but other, the big cars that they drove, big for them fancy cars that they drove around in, because they hold the office and live in nicer conditions and have nicer clothes and all of that stuff. So they weren't quite equal, but they were doing so hypocritically because their society claimed to be working for equality of outcomes. Where the fascists are, oh yeah, that's Playboy over there in his fast sports car because he's rich, and yeah, but we take half of his income to feed the poor, or whatever it might be. I don't know specifically under Italian fascism, but we take a big chunk of his income and we regulate the hell out of the factory or something that he has a 10% ownership in, and also take money out of the factory even before the rich playboy gets it. But yeah, he gets to be a rich playboy, and it's fine so long as we, the government, are deciding how much we get to take from him to support society, if you will. So it is a socialism. This seems to be the social element. It seems to be the collective element of the Fatherland Front. I really would, in some more, if somebody who's truly a German speaker looks into period publications and documents from the Fatherland Front, how they use the word fascism, if they refer to fascism, and if they associate the word fascism or phalangism or some similar word to themselves. I would really like to see. Now, one thing that is very clear with Schuschnigg and forgetting the leader that preceded him that the Nazis killed, very much now they see it in two elements. One is just generally protecting Catholicism, but they also see it, the anti-Christianity, I believe, of Nazism. So they are trying to protect Austria partially on a nationalistic basis, but also very much on a religious basis, in that they see anti-Christian, because there's, trust me, and I don't specifically have personal references to the Fatherland Front complaining about National Socialist Germans' anti-Christianism, but I've read the book Hitler's Compromises, and they deal with the Nazis' conflict with the Catholic Church and Catholic, I think bishops and others in southern Germany and Bavaria particularly, and where they literally had, well, I don't know if it's tens of thousands, but more than 10,000 people every evening gathering for like a week or more at a time. Basically, they would come out after work, men and women would just fill the streets when they were trying to arrest or whatever, or had arrested a Catholic bishop, I think it was, in there, and they would all just come out silently and stand for hours. So like once they got home from work, or once they got done with work, they would eat and they would go stand till like midnight or 1 o'clock or whatever in the town square, Munich or one of these places. Sorry, I'm getting some of the details wrong. This is stuff that's hardly reported on in Germany nowadays, and even then the Nazi press was covering it up. But they would come out and silently just stand there and block up any sort of traffic movement. It was a big protest. And eventually the National Socialist state backed down, released the guy, and he continued his sort of somewhat anti-Nazi activities. I know this was noticed across the border in Austria. I mean, I don't have specific facts to show you this, but this was a big thing, and it was being there was still something of a Catholic press going on, sort of local newspaper type stuff. They've been shut down, a lot of stuff. So this is definitely being noticed in Catholic Austria. Okay. So this is being noticed, some of these protests, some of these arrests, some of these things that are dealing specifically. And a part of it is around trying to shut down religious-based schools. The Nazis do not want, they want to complete controls over all schools. They do not want to allow private schools. They do not even want to allow no, well, you go to the government school, during normal school hours, and then, well, you can go to our private school, whether it may be a religious school or an extra special studies school. No private schooling. Everything is either going to, it's going to be the state and the party together. Talked last episode, Bernhard Rust, and he was the minister. He was the Reich Minister for Science and, wait for this, Education. And so he really is pushing and disrupting education and tries some weird programs out. And so you have all of this going on. within, southern Germany in particular, trying to shut down Catholic youth programs. The only youth program is going to be the Hitler Youth, for boys and girls. You can't have religious, but there's a fight to keep these things going. I am sure that the Austrians were paying attention to this, and so I see this not so much, especially with some of the stuff that's, I think from the book Hitler's Empire, they talk about Austria and immediate post-World War I and wanting to join. It's not so much Austrian nationalism versus German nationalism as I see it. It may be a bit more fascism versus National Socialism. It is definitely a Catholicism versus neo-paganism going on. So there's a lot. And the guy who the one individual, there's a lot of people pushing all this stuff, including just Hitler and the success in Germany. But the one guy who's really working to make all this happen, and who had earlier got the Nazi Party legalized again in Austria. I know I did say for a while it was just the Fatherland Front, but they're no longer banned. They're banned from wearing uniforms. So they like the SA that doesn't really get to exist yet, goes out and marches, and they're all wearing lederhosen together and all wearing white shirts. That's not a uniform, because the lederhosen don't all match each other, but they're just common white shirt, wearing a uniformly dressed without wearing a particular uniform. So there was a National Socialist sort of versus fascist conflict in there, and if they are fascists, these Fatherland fronts are vehement Christians against anti-Christians, if you will. But the one person that Hitler sends down there is staunch Catholic Franz von Papen, the former vice chancellor under Hitler, the former chancellor prior to Hitler of Germany, is sent down to, he's sent down like in 1935-36. I'm not exactly sure. I think it's 35. He's sent down to Vienna to be the special envoy or ambassador or whatever it was called to Austria, with the goal of affecting first, unbanning the Nazis, and then getting the Seyss Inquart had already been a member. They had of the cabinet of the Fatherland Front. They had been pushed, of the Austrian government. He's not a member of the Fatherland Front, but a member of the governing cabinet. I forget which post he held. And there were like two others, I think, Nazis. I think it was a total of three that were pushed into the cabinet ministers in Austria prior to this. Now he becomes the chancellor, here. So there's definitely a pushing, and Nazis are popular in Austria. Nazis are popular. The Fatherland Front is trying to be an appeal to everybody sort of party, and it never gets overwhelmingly popular, because there's still socialists that don't like it. Who are not, at least, I don't know how much on the political policies for most things, tax rates and what you're spending for the poor or whatever. I don't know how much conflict there is with that with the socialists, but there's definitely, the socialists are anti-nationalistic and also anti-religious, particularly Christian, particularly Catholic in this case, anti-religious involvement in government, if you will. And then, of course, there are a certain amount of communists and just other liberals that want a more democratic Austria as opposed to a undemocratic Fatherland Front that ruling Austria. So we can either keep the manpower and inherit Austrian divisions. We're going to inherit Austrian divisions. And it looks like we can invite Italy to our faction. Okay, so we now have some of these sort of cool divisions here. Um, okay, since we're here, uh, when does Italy and Germany form their faction? When are they in the same faction? You know, the Axis. The Axis, I think, was declared. Is it 36 or something? Now the tripartite pact. That's for sure. Hitler's all again. If you since we're still sort of on the topic of Austria here, in 1936 in Vienna, in Venice, Mussolini signs the Three Powers Pact. It is Italy, Austria, and Hungary in a specifically anti-German, anti-Nazi political and military and probably trade alliance as well. I would not call Hothy's government fascist. He is nationalistic. There is the Aerocross movement, I believe, in Hungary, and later in the war, there's some coups and almost levels of civil war going on with the fascists. The Aerocross, I would see as fascists. But like we were just talking about, I don't know. I think the Fatherland Front is fascist, but that is. I'm curious if somebody wants to do some original source material. Look at their publications about themselves to find out if they were. So it goes from Mussolini being worried about German expansionism to Hitler's earlier visit down into Italy that allows finally Germany to take over Austria. Okay, mass events has advanced. That I believe here. Yes, stop that. Okay, but okay, that gets rid of that. Yeah, I think we will invite Italy now. Italy is accepted. Okay, so we've got Italy as in the axis, as it were. It's definitely a progression line, and I don't have a solid clue that this, I can for sure. It's for sure by the time that they're forming the tripartite pact. Okay, we now have more leadership here. Oh, we are, well, okay. Yeah, okay, we're just gonna lock this in. We just got a little bit larger army, so yeah. Okay, well, we now have a lot more leadership here. This will allow me to, let's do destroyer escort. We'll do commerce defense, battle fleet doctrine. We'll want to do that because we want to get that eventually for our various envoys that we will need to have. And we saw from playing last time huge numbers of Soviet subs. Let's do naval bomber prototype. And we can do close support. Heavy field artillery. And just artillery brigades. Yeah, I think we can. These go. Okay, that uses up all of our capabilities. Our current use of leadership will readjust here shortly. Okay, so this is we're now that they're in, we're getting pact of steel effects here. 2.5% more supplies and research efficiency. And because we now have, we get naval base efficiency because of the Italian dockyard facilities. Yeah, I have my concerns over some of those, whether they should be, we would give them money for fuel. No. No, oil refining events. Very good. That is something we're definitely looking forward to do more with. Let's do motorized support unit. Okay, also back on this story. So, Schuschnigg, sort of goes, yeah, no, Austria should be its own nation. We don't want to bow to this Nazi oppression. So he calls a plebiscite. This is disturbing for Hitler. I think, I mean, there could, of course, be cheating, but I think the plebiscite would have gone in favor of unification with Germany. I think, again, please note my words carefully, I think Hitler and the Nazis knew that it would have gone that way. If it was done in a, fair, non-cheating way. Because there's multiple ways you can cheat in an election. Some of it just simply, stuffing the ballot box with things. But what I think Hitler was worried about, beyond just whether he would win or lose the plebiscite, would be, well, if you win it, 60-40, well, that means 40% of the people don't agree with you. Or if it's 54 or 55-45, well, that means 45% of the people don't agree with you. So that prompts Hitler to do a military invasion of Austria, one that is not opposed by the Austrian army, meaning there's no fighting, but it is a military invasion. Now Hitler, once he's there and sees all of the crowds, and this is sort of what I'm basing on, because you can definitely get crowds of lots of people and still be clearly in the minority. Go to some big Trump or Obama rallies at times, or Hillary Clinton rallies or something, and yeah, there's lots of people out there screaming, shouting, "Yay for you!" But you lose the election. So you can still get large rallies even though you would lose an election. But I think, because again, remember, politics is perception. So I don't know what the perception of who would win prior to German invasion would have been on the, by the Nazi higher ups, but I think they would have won. So why did they invade? And I think they would have won. Well, if you invade, you can then script the narrative as to who is popular. So, but they see how popular it is, and it really is, seems to be very popular. Sure, there is a minority becoming less vocal because of violence. There is violence, not so much shooting, but thugs on the street. I have some photos of the Austrian SA in their white shirts and lederhosen, welcoming Hitler and whatnot, because they don't have proper SA uniforms, but they're uniformed out there. But these had been operating. There had been both SS and SA elements operating for years inside of Austria, illegally at times. That they decide to go ahead and hold the election. But they now sort of control the narratives, and it gets 80+%, I believe, in support of unification. So I think unification was a popular idea. But so I think they would have won anyways. It just comes down to how big the winning or losing would be. And of course, Nazis. I don't know that I trust the voting results, but I do think it was overwhelming. So support for unification, everything that I can tell. So I think the Nazis were probably correct, or did not tweak the outcome of that. Okay, twin engine pilot training advance. Okay, so that is down here. We'll move that to engine ground crew, and that's a lot of organization bonus. Single engine fighter prototype. That is grayed out, but unlocks all of these, and we'll start with this one. Our engine. Get that researched. And the Nazis really put on a coming up to the plebiscite that they hold after the forcible invasion. They electioneer. They campaign big time. They have Zeppelins flying around, dropping leaflets over cities. Vote for acceptance of the. And we'll see some of this stuff coming up here soon, I believe. So we should wait for it. Rolling artillery, which is increased to 3. That I think is here. I'm going to stop that, and we're going to move that over to our research here on aircraft. So let's stop that. Here, I'm looking for heavy industry. We have the 2 heavy industry there in Vienna. That's full, so I'm not going to specifically try to increase industry here in Austria. We're still sort of repairing our remote risk. Okay, well, interesting. Now we were on let them eat cake. Okay. Yes, all these various new arms factories because we took over, and other things. We took over Austria. Steel production advance. Okay, that here, yeah, okay, here, stop that. Oh, and coal processing has advanced. Yeah, there we go. The United Kingdom is launched, and the USA is launching ships. Very good. New ambassador in Japan. Heinkel sued Schauswalk. After the Anschluss of Austria, German aircraft manufacturer Heinkel established a factory in the town of Geschwitz near Vienna. Should we build this facility? Give you a yep. We want that. Oh, and here we go. Here's some of the stuff. The SA in Austria, the NSDAP and the SA were banned in Austria in June 1933. They could not wear their uniforms. In 1937, they were able to join the Patriotic Front. Throughout Austria, political units were set up and led by the Nazis. This was a legal disguise for reorganization. They were now able to, now that there's unification, openly join the rest of the SA. So this is Austrian. This is like what I was talking about, the lederhosen and the shirts and all wearing very similar stuff, but not having proper SA stuff. Yes, Greater Reich. So we get this, boom. What you want to do here is you can move this over here. You want to click here, and then you want to stop all upgrades. And then we can attach this to there. So now we have, there will be another thing that gets us a little more SA, but that's, we're now near the sort of full extent of the SA. Not quite within the game, but we do have this. Okay, Pact of Steel. Popular relations with Italy improved. Soviet Union, France going down. So that is good. Helicopters. Falk-Wolf VF-61 developed by Heinrich Falk and Gerhard Archangelis. I don't know. Was first publicly demonstrated by Hannah Reich. There she is. At the IAA, I think that's the International Automobile Show or whatever, in 1938 on the orders of Major General Udet. This will show the world press the greatness of the German Reich. So this is sort of the first really functional helicopter. Now it's still using a sort of a aircraft-like body. It still has a engine here, but that engine is, I don't know if there's propellers here for sure, but it's definitely driving a drive gear train that's going out to here to use. You can sort of see it, this propeller here. You can sort of see the propeller there. This is actually flying, and they actually fly this around in a big indoor building, stadium building. These are people sitting around flying this thing around. Yeah, I'm sure it's perfectly safe. Absolutely, it couldn't possibly crash into the crowd in an indoor building. But Hannah Reich was a most excellent pilot, even though she was a Nazi through to the end of her life. But so it doesn't quite, and it doesn't have a, the modern either has, one rotor, big rotor, and then a smaller tail rotor, or like a front and rear rotors, like the Chinook helicopter. But they were still, to keep the aircraft from spinning, they were still using a, aircraft tail wing and whatnot on design. So yeah, it's a practical helicopter to fly, a couple, 3 people around a bit, but it's not terribly, but we get a little bit of helicopter gain out of it. Okay, here we do. Oh, this is maybe why, because the new year, this hadn't fired yet. Yeah, we're going to continue to give them cake, appease them. We could use our SA to keep order here. Yes, you can have money for rare materials. Abilities here. Yeah, let's. No. I want to get the aircraft. Okay, SA standard and diffuser, which puts an SA unit down, or SS unit, I should say, down. I thought here. Huh? Where are they? Oh. Oh. Okay, maybe it hasn't showed up yet. IG Farben, yeah, I'm not going to read all of this right now. Government Secretary, we're going to reorganize the War Ministry. That is now 50-50 chance of going well. Good. Denmark, right? Why didn't we get an SS unit on the map? That obviously wouldn't automatically attach to that. I thought we should. I've got to look into that. Could be down here, the sort of the did I somehow hit the wrong thing, or is it? I gotta check into that thing. I think I made some saves. Okay. CAS ground crew training has advanced. Very nice. Down here, 138, 137. Yeah, we'll do CAG crew training. Brazil considers admitting Austrians. Brazilian Foreign Office is considering admitting refugees from Austria. This is from a press paper account. I don't know how far it goes, but because that is a public news story, we get a little worse relations with Brazil. We're going to end the episode here. I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the like button. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron. I'm going to check into that non-arrival of S unit. Thanks, everyone.